Yes.
What's your topic?
My topic today is documentaries. Specifically, if you could have a documentary made, so you wouldn't be the one making it. It would be made about anything. What would it be? The reason I bring this up is I have never seen an amazing Star Wars documentary. And I feel like there should be one.
Really?
Yeah.
There's one.
Is there?
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
What's it called?
I can't remember, but I saw it on not Discovery, History Channel.
Yeah, I know the
I
one
think
you're
did a really
talking
good
about.
one. Yeah,
I don't know,
really
because
good one.
I remember seeing one before.
I mean,
And
it's old, so it would be
recently-
dope to redo it because now we've got all the new ones and all that stuff too to go through. Was not the ones from the '90s, but like now it'd be awesome to like. I'm sure they're cataloging J.J. Abrams right now.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because there was there was a special on TV that was kind of like a pseudo
That might be the one I'm thinking
documentary.
of.
And I saw that. It was fine. But like I don't know. I feel like Star Wars, there's the potential for like a super awesome, super in-depth, like really cool look at the making of those movies. And at least from what I've seen, it doesn't exist. And I would love to see that.
The one on TV was the one that I saw was really cool, and I think it's the one Colin saw as well. It's the
So,
one
was it around Phantom Menace when it came out?
Yeah, it might have been. I saw it
think I know
maybe
what you're talking
5-6 years ago
On, like,
T-
A&E or
on TV. Yeah, I think it was A&E actually, and it was the one where he was talking about how like George Lucas would walk into the model makers and look at the Death Star and be like, I don't know, I think it just needs more. So they had to like go run to a model shop and they bought like a ton of models and just glued them to the top of it, so you can see like odd pieces of other models in the Star Destroyers, stuff like that. They also went. He told a cool story when they were filming the scene in Hoth where Luke was like messed up and like about to die, and then Han famously comes and rescues him with a tauntaun, and then they cut open and they're like, Jesus Christ, what's in that tauntaun? What did it have for breakfast? But they said they were like, it was so cold they couldn't go out to the locations. They're like, but then the director, I think it was Lawrence Kasdan, like looked out and was like, oh, why don't we just shoot out there? And it was like this nice comfy hotel, so they put the camera inside the lodge of the hotel shooting outward, and they were like, okay, go. And he just like was going like in the middle of a snowstorm because you couldn't really see anything anyway. It was like blackout or whiteout conditions. So just stuff like that where it's like, I don't care if I've heard it before. I want to hear more of it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's kind of my thing.
Mm.
Is like I want a documentary full of those little things, like those
Yeah.
little moments and all that. And whether or not it's Star Wars, like, I think that's just kind of my jumping off point. 'Cause
Right.
there was that, and then I saw like a 20-minute Lego documentary, and it's like it wasn't.
Oh, that's on Netflix.
It might be. It
There's a
was
big one
not
on Netflix.
satisfying.
Really?
It was just like
That's the one on Netflix. Yeah, I've seen this.
yeah, it was really just kind of like surface level, and it didn't really kind of get into the. I want just more of the evolution of Lego and the actual sets and like all just that stuff, and it didn't really get there. It just kind of like gave the history of
Yeah.
the people that invented Lego, but it's like whatever.
I feel like a lot of people are making some crackpot documentaries these days because of Netflix.
Oh,
because
definitely,
Sure.
you can get something like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon are so desperate for content that I'm pretty sure you can carve out. They'll give you like $100,000. You go just make a documentary that, and some of these are bad. You can tell they shot the whole thing in like a day and a half for like an hour and 10-minute documentary, and you're like, you weren't really going too in depth.
And that's kind of
on
how the
some
Lego
of
one
these
felt.
things,
Like the Lego
yeah.
one felt like what I remember we did a lot of at IGN, which was like, hey, let's go to a developer studio,
Right.
and we're spending like a day with them to like do this thing, and those are great, but like
That feels like a long piece of content.
we made
not a
15-minute internet videos. You know what I mean?
If that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes they would be 5 minutes or 3 minutes, depending on what the story would take us.
Yeah, and so seeing this, like I feel like Lego is such a fascinating thing, and it's such a like perfect toy, and I think that it's one of the rare things that no matter what your age is, it is awesome and it's creative and it's fun, and it's a toy that like just crosses all generations, and I feel like that would be interesting. So I'd love to see a really good one on that.
On Lego.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some really cool documentaries lately. I just watched one, and you guys are going to laugh when I tell you the title of it, but it wasn't as, I don't think it was as educational and in-depth as it should have been. There's a great documentary. Well, not great. Great's a strong word. Called Hot Girls Wanted right now on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I saw this one.
Now it's Rashida Jones produced it. This is legitimately like, made up a lot. Have you guys watched it yet?
Yeah, I watched it.
I just see the ad every time I
It
turn
was
on
fine.
Netflix.
Again, it's one of those things where it was like when my wife started. I watched it with my wife. I was like, we should watch this because I obviously find the
In a nutshell, it's following a bunch of amateur porn stars
Right.
and like the companies that get these people and what they do with them.
but it's not even. But that was my criticism with it, right? Which was that my wife had read on Jezebel all these news stories about how like controversial it was and provocative and like how it sheds light on this horrible institution that is porn. And I'm not coming to the porn industry's defense because I think there is obviously it's not a very easy living to do what those girls and guys do. But I was surprised, largely watching it with my wife, with her reaction, where she was like, "See, this is terrible," and I'm like, I don't think this really goes, and no pun intended on this, in depth enough into the world of porn and how this features, because all they do is follow these 3 girls around, and then they show them sitting on a couch for like 5 minutes at a time talking, and then it goes to text over screen. 90% of porn searched has the word teen in it. I'm like, I could have made these statistics up based on my own experiences just searching porn for like half a day. But that's what I thought was funny, was I was like, who the fuck is this documentary for? Is it for the 50-year-olds out there that didn't grow up with this? Because surely people that are 30 and below would like watch this and be like, no shit, duh. Like, yeah, it's fucking terrible. They take advantage of these girls, and like a lot of these girls get into it thinking it's going to be a career and realize very, very early on that it's a terrible choice, but they can't go back, and then they don't get work, and then sorry, my phone just rang and it just totally threw me off. So I was fascinated by that. It would be fascinating to. I also watched another one called it's on Netflix as well. It's about kink.com.
I saw that one too.
Which I thought, again, I was like, that was
probably a
lot more
day in the life of kink.com.
Yeah, that was a little bit different because it wasn't so much of like a study on kink and
sure, no, not at all. It was like who this company is and how they
do
got
this crazy shit.
Thing.
And actually, I thought that one was a lot more positively spun than the Hot Girls Wanted. Largely because I think the people that work at kink.com like really, really enjoy what they do. I think it's a thriving company, a thriving culture, obviously up here over at the old Armory. And I don't think that I think they were kind of coming to the defense of it, saying like, hey, look, we're all sane, safe
normal
people.
Yeah.
We like to do this. We're not coercing
porn's not a bad thing.
Well,
like, I think the industry
people see it as it, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's an issue. Like, overall, like, it's not a bad thing. I think that the industry has a lot of bad things about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like Hollywood. That's like anything.
Well, I think what a lot of people took offense to with this one specifically was they were talking. Like, some of the statistics are pretty shocking, where the girls, you know, the average life of a career of a porn star, or at least a brand new person in the industry, is like
amateur
a month.
Porn stars, yeah.
Because they come on the scene, they do like 5-6 shoots a week, they do crazy amounts of filming, and then after a month, the producers in this specific area are like, okay, we want a fresh face.
Yeah.
Because you've already been saturated. And so you only have really a month. And then I think the shocking aspect of that, of course, is then, you know, one of the girls was, and the thing was like, I just hope my parents don't find out about this. And her agent, her quote unquote agent, the guy that like found her, that put the ad on Craigslist, was like, they're going to know in 3 weeks that you did porn. And she goes, well, no, they're never going to find it. He goes, we're going to film a bunch of stuff in 2 weeks. And by the 3rd week, it'll all come out. And then someone in your town's going to see it and call them. And that's how it goes. And she's like, no, and sure as shit, that's how it always goes. Yeah. That's how it went with her, because someone like told her mom, or you know, or they figured it out. They always figure it out, because guess what? It's the World Wide Web, and everyone watches
the
porn.
World Wide Web.
Yeah,
that's the thing, is everyone watches porn.
Everyone watches porn.
Now, I'm interested in learning about this more, because I'm more Tim, like, where there's certainly an unsavory, maybe even a significant unsavory aspect to porn in the porn industry. But surely some companies must be doing it right? Like some of these big companies must be totally on the up and up, right? And Vivid is one of these companies where it's like they hire professionals, they deal professionally, they test and all these kind.
Well, that's the big thing about this. This was very specifically the amateur porn industry in Miami, Florida, and like this guy who's the guy who's like running it out of his apartment where he hits girls up on Craigslist, flies them in, they stay with him for a month before he kicks them out. Like it's the people that's in here. Yeah, it wasn't like looking at the big porn companies.
How much do they make on these amateur porn models?
I think they made like, and that was the weird thing, was I think she was talking about how they would make $500 a shoot, and then to do the other things involved, the various different brackets, you went up in pay.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, based on all the porn you've seen, like if you want to do all the way up to the crazy stuff, you get more and more money for that. But the shocking thing and the sad thing really was that these girls do this, they make decent money. One of the girls was saying she made, in the span of like 2 months or something like that, or 3 months, $24,000, and then because they had to pay for all their own tests and all their own healthcare and all that stuff, and and all their travel everywhere, she said she basically broke even. But I think the thing that people take offense to or have an issue with is that these girls go into this not necessarily knowing what they're getting themselves into, and then are sort of quickly used, and then that's it, kind of discarded, and they don't really, they're not empowered to do this stuff, right? They're coming in as sort of young. Obviously, the younger the better. Hopefully, 18 or above. But some instances, like they've famously, Jenna Jameson, of course, like started doing porn when she was, I think, 16 and a half or 17 because she lied. They come in and they really don't have the perspective that they probably should have. And of course, the producers don't give a shit because they're like, hot girl, great. She's willing to do it for $500. Let's see what else we can get her to do for increments of $100 and see if we can go all the way up to like really, really, really horribly degrading things. And they do it, and then at the end of it, they're not. I think they're seeing sort of a long game and like to maybe potentially be a Sasha Grey or a Jenna Jameson, or girls that have sort of gone out of the industry and become more mainstream celebrities. But that's not. It's never the case for them, unfortunately.
That's interesting stuff.
It was pretty.
I think it's different though nowadays with, I mean, again, like with YouTube and with how like everything now is on the internet, and like porn is so much more of just a common thing.
Yeah.
Like I think that the days of, I mean, of course, bad things are always going to exist.
Sure.
But I think the days of the amateur sites that are treating people poorly and all that stuff, like that's not legitimate. That's not part of the industry.
No,
that's like the shady black market of it. Like,
yeah, you get a lot of the crazy stuff is when you start watching the shit that comes over from like Europe or like the Eastern Bloc.
Yeah,
where you're like, these girls are legitimately sex slaves that are forced into this stuff.
And well, that's obviously
bad.
not okay.
Yeah.
But when like talking about like the actual porn industry as it is today, like I'm not an expert at all about
You're
this
the pure
stuff.
one, goddammit.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm very familiar with porn. I'm very like intimately familiar with a lot of the different things, but it's like I don't know the business behind all of it. I don't know too much of that. But it's like following porn stars on Twitter isn't crazy now.
Right.
You know
what
I mean?
You have to be ashamed of that.
These porn stars aren't just like these imaginary things. Like, they're people.
Right.
Just like we're people. Just like anyone watching this is people. You know?
Unless you're one of the sentient computers from the Gamescast.
Exactly. But it's like, we now get to see these people in their lives and kind of see their updates. And it's like I follow a couple porn stars, and the biggest reason I follow it, in addition to them being very attractive to me, is the fact that like I like seeing that their lives. I like seeing what they're doing. It's like when they get gigs and they're excited about, I just signed this deal, whatever, and they're excited about that. Like that's cool to me. Where it's like, oh, you're growing this. Like you're turning this into a thing, and they're using it to like build it's the exact same thing we're doing.
And see, that's what I think I wanted to see more of in this documentary, right? Which is like a documentary in its truest form is really supposed to just document something, right? Without having a biased perspective that you put on it. Now, of course, famously, I don't think we've had one of those. I don't think I've ever seen a documentary that didn't have a certain perspective of the director in it, right? Famously, Michael Moore was the one that was like, "I'm making this documentary about this," and you're like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, dude, you're not. This is not a documentary. This is basically propaganda, leftist propaganda." Whether or not you agree with that, we can get into it later. But
good filmmaker, but
great filmmaker,
not a great documentary,
infuriating to watch that
documentary, not a documentarian.
I've seen every one of them too. That is done.
Well, here's your star.
But with this, that's what I felt was.
I've seen them.
All right.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
I just felt like in order to make a documentary, and some of the better documentaries that I've seen are the ones that pose the questions and sort of just put them out there, right? And both sides of the story. And I'm not saying this one, Hot Girls Wanted, was necessarily bad or good at that. I just wanted more. I wanted them to come to LA. I wanted them, and I know it was budgetarily constrained. They
Hot
probably
Girls Wanted felt very much, and this isn't a knock, so stick with me, like an MTV True Life.
It did.
It's like an hour and a half MTV True Life of like, we're not getting into everything.
Right.
We're following these people right now and using these statistics.
Right. And
there are porn documentaries like that on Netflix.
Oh, there's tons. There are plenty of them. I'm just saying for this one specifically because of its style, because it made such great waves.
Sure.
I thought I watched it and I'm like, okay, well, I want to watch this and see what it's all about. And it didn't go. It didn't have enough of a wider perspective on me for it really to be impactful to me.
Gotcha.
Like I saw these girls, one of the girls they followed, she did it for a month and then quit because her boyfriend was like, please stop doing this. And her mom flew in, was like, before you tell your dad, like, I'd like you to stop doing this. And then she stopped. And I'm like, I get that that's probably the norm in amateur porn. And that's very, very impactful and that's meaningful. And I appreciate that this girl went through this and came out of it relatively unscathed. But at the same time, I would have wanted to then see the life of Tara Patrick or the life of like these mega porn stars, and are they really enjoying it, or are they just as conflicted about their careers as the girls that just started?
There is a documentary about them,
right? I've seen it
too, where like like the girl that ran for governor and all that other stuff. You know what I'm talking about? The blonde girl.
Yeah, they shot a lot at the AVNs too. I remember like the adult video awards.
Yeah,
which is actually
there's one like the what you're looking for.
Anecdotally, I was watching *Halt and Catch Fire* which you got to watch.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to stack up a little bit more than
they go to a show that I forget what it's called, but it's basically CES, and they talk about how the porn industry decided to throw an awards ceremony, like a basically porn convention, during the same time because most of the porn stars were prostitutes as well. And so, like, what better clientele than rich computer guys that never get laid? I thought that was pretty funny. It's a very clever show.
I'm interested. I'm interested in watching it. Two things. One, I don't know if you really don't like to read or whatever, or read a lot of books necessarily, but J.W. Rinsler's Making of Star Wars, Making of Empire, Making of Jedi are fucking perfect. So you should check those out because they're interactive too. There's a lot of audio and visual stuff. Number two, the documentary that still needs to be made is about Greg, and I don't know.
Oh yeah,
because
how did I miss that?
It just seems like the obvious choice, right? Like there's just something that there's a story that needs to be told here, and I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not going with any biases. I don't know where it's going to bring us. I don't know who we're going to have to talk to, where we're going to have to go. I feel like we're going to find.
This is going to be your film. This is what you wanted from the Death Topic. You need to make a film.
I still want to do this so bad.
I think it's one of those things where, like, I'm actually, the topic prior to this, if you're watching the breakout segments, was about death. I'm more terrified of that than I am of death, just because I don't know how it's going to change me at the end of that.
Well, you won't come back the same man.
I want to just go There's a piece of me that's going to be missing. It's probably going to be my spleen.
I want to just talk to his parents, like, really, for a long time. I want to talk to his other family members. I want to go talk to his teachers. I want to go through all of his boxes of his old things and his old
That'd be
notebooks.
Awesome. I would love you smell the
back,
you behind my dad's attic and come back with all this stuff.
I want to find the Dixie cups.
That's long gone.
There's a stray Dixie cup.
That house is destroyed.
I want to take bets on how many people say the following phrase. Greg was such a quiet boy, kept mostly to himself. No one would have ever guessed that he was a psycho killer.
Yeah. You have to do that thing where you're filming one of these shows off the TV and doing that, like, slow pan where you, like, get closer and closer to, like, my face, you know, and then it gets all pixelated.
Yeah.
As you say stuff like that. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Damn, you're good.
I feel like I'm a documentarian myself.
Yeah, there you go.
I feel like they're going to say the exact opposite. He was always loud.
No,
not as a kid. I think he was.
And he screamed a lot, and he had some cats.
He cried a lot.
He cried all the time for really trivial reasons.
Dude,
he never played sports.
Legitimately a hilarious documentary.
It's not going to be as funny as you think it would be, is the problem.
Well, I'll make it funny because I'll have Tim as my producer and tell him like this. Can you say it again like this? And then it'll have an amazing cover.
Yeah.
So one of the documentaries I would want to get made is already being made, or is already made. It's coming out. It's getting that dumb limited release shit right now, and I gotta wait till July. But The Death of Superman Lives. What happened?
Yes.
I can't wait to see it. It's documenting everything that happened with the Nicolas Cage movie that never was, but almost was. And he has interviews with Tim Burton and all these people and Kevin Smith, and I can't wait to actually sit down and watch that movie.
That's gonna be amazing.
And he's such a cool dude. We've met the director John a bunch of times, right? John, isn't that his name? You don't know. Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. He comes to New York Comic-Con.
See, I didn't go to New York Comic-Con,
really?
But yeah.
Oh, Ransky, I must be thinking of.
I'm
pretty sure
you think of Ransky.
But either way, Death of Superman Lives. Then, this is something we talk about all the time. Not a lot of amazing journalism done with video games, right? The 3 video game documentaries that I would want to see, and one's still happening, so it's impossible. I'd love to see the collapse of THQ. I'd love fucking in-depth interviews with them, talk to them, read documents, see what happened. I'd love one when it's all over about The Last Guardian. What happened in PlayStation?
That's gonna be a good story.
Everyone, if you could get everyone to talk about that, and that's like 20, 30 years from now, probably, where everyone's like willing to do it. And then right now, I'd love to see the Konami Kojima
of course,
of what's going on.
God, that'd be fucking awesome.
Can you imagine being able to sit down one day if video games continue to get as big as they are, or keep growing? You know what I mean? And have somebody who's able to tell those stories and go out and get those stories.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, that's what I was trying to lead up to with some of my pieces, or whatever. There are a few good gaming documentaries, but not many. I'm a huge documentary nerd, as everyone out there knows. So I mean, that's 90% of what I watch.
I really liked the. Have you seen the one on digging up the ET cartridges?
Yeah, the one that Microsoft funded or whatever.
Yeah, it's So the ET cartridge obviously is like the A story, right? Where they're going back and they're trying to find in this giant landfill where all those cartridges were buried, or even if they're there, because there was no records basically in the 80s to go back.
No one kept things written down in the 80s.
Well, they had sort of like a rough approximation, but this guy
there
had
were people that didn't believe that it actually happened,
right? Because it was kind of an absurd story to begin with. But what I thought was more fascinating was the sort of B story element of it is going back and looking at what Atari was in the 80s. That is fucking fascinating.
There's a documentary
Atari
about
was
that.
like. this goes. I think this was half of it because they were talking about like the Atari of the time, the 80s was the backdrop, and then the ET and games like that were sort of the decline of that sort of first phase of video games in the home, and then of course which paved the way for the Nintendos and the Sonys and the Xboxes.
The documentary that I was in and that I narrated is all about Atari World 1-1. You guys can go watch it now.
Yeah.
Oh, is that on Netflix?
It's on Steam right now and a few other platforms, but not on Netflix yet. I think they want to get it there, but it's not my movie.
It's fascinating. I feel like it's really interesting because I feel like in 20 or 30 years, I mean, I don't want to get into that topic right now, but
save it.
Maybe it's because we're too close to the video game industry, but a lot of these documentaries that I'll watch something about a documentary on film. Like I watched a great documentary called Milius, which was actually done.
John
Milius, yeah.
My dude.
And that documentary was fascinating to me. But then watching maybe it's because we're too close, but watching that one about the ET cartridges, which damn it, I can't remember what it was called. Kevin, look that up real quick for me.
The ET one?
Yeah. It's on
Naomi,
Netflix. And Naomi and Fran were in it, which is hilarious. I was like, oh shit, I know people that went to that dig, and I remember when that was a news story, so maybe it was too close to home for it to be like really seen as a documentary. Because that's also hard for me because the line starts to get blurred of like, I know how they make these things and I've taken part in them, and so I'm like, I don't know if they have the same impact. Maybe I can see behind the curtain a little bit here and there.
One that I definitely want to say is I would love to see an actual in-depth Rooster Teeth documentary of seeing like
that'd be really good.
The history of Red versus Blue and what it turned into and like the empire that it is now. And like thinking about that and just knowing that a lot of that footage just doesn't exist. Like I'm sure they have a bunch of stuff, but like even today I was showing Colin, I saw this video of this little kid getting his Super Nintendo on launch day, and it was a surprise, and his parents like gave it to him and he freaked the fuck out, and like there's video footage of him playing Mario World for the first time. And it's like,
that's cool.
My God. Like, I would give anything to have video footage of those moments for me just to have now so that we can make dumb videos out of it, you know?
What's it called, Kev?
Atari, the Game Over.
Atari, the Game Over.
That sounds dumb.
Yeah,
that's a bad title.
That's a really bad name.
Just Game Over.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think it was the Game Over.
Atari, Game Over.
That's it. Sorry.
Yeah, and I want to give a quick shout out before we move on as well. I still think that sports is coming up so hard in journalism, hard journalism, primary source journalism, and documentaries that we can learn a lot from that particular industry. And 30 for 30,
brother,
is still probably it might, as someone who's watched a lot of documentaries, I don't know if people agree or disagree in terms of a series, easily the best documentary series ever made by far, and they're all good. Like they're all. I don't know how the fuck they do it. I don't know how you're gonna get me to watch some of this shit. Yet here I am. I've watched every one of them. That are available. I don't care what the fuck's about. So well done.
Some of those are way better than others.
Yeah, but it's because they give a different. Each one is done by a different
director. Yeah, and probably different budgets as well, depending on the subject. Like the one on Bo Jackson is fucking amazing. You're just like
so sad.
It is sad, but the guy's also. He was an amazing.
Did you see the one about Michael Jordan going to the trip?
No, I have it on my Netflix here right now.
Dude. Oh my God.
Michael Jordan rides the bus. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. I mean. That was a bad period in his life, so
it was about the loss of someone.
Yeah, I want to watch that.
That series is phenomenal, though. I don't know how they do it.
There's another great documentary. And Netflix is fascinating because these little tiny documentaries pop up when you start watching them. They start referring to you. There's one called Shep Gordon's Supermensch.
About Shep Gordon?
Yeah.
No.
He was famously an agent for Alice Cooper. He was like their manager. And he then started managing a bunch of other people, including Mike Myers and some other people. But Mike Myers produced it because he was like, this guy is so fascinating that I have to make a documentary about it. And I watched it for the first 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm fascinated by this human being. He reminds me a lot of, actually, Tim. Because he basically...
Tim is a super mensch.
Is one of those...
super bitch.
He's just one of those...
No,
I'm a super bitch.
Mensch is obviously a person that does
Yiddish word. It's very good.
It's a Yiddish word for a person who does good things, or
cool.
I forget the actual definition of it, but you're basically a good person, someone who does great things. But this guy was amazing because he basically was like, he just moved out to L.A., started staying in a hotel, met this group, met I think it was Jimi Hendrix, who was like, oh, you should manage my buddy Alice. They don't have a manager, and he put him in contact with him, and he was like, hey, I'll manage you. I had no idea what he was doing, and just pulled out outrageous shit to get them.
Oh, you would tell me about this.
Yeah,
I love this.
He did one of famously. They were they became really famous in the States, but they were doing a tour in Europe, and they weren't selling tickets, and like people were like, we don't know, you need to do something for promotion. So he paid a guy. He had a billboard placed on one of those sign trucks, took it to one of the famous squares in London. I think it was Piccadilly or that's a circle, I think. A very famous roundabout where they're like most of the traffic in London goes through, and paid the guy to break down in the middle of that. And he goes, no matter what, I don't care what anyone does. I don't give a shit if you get arrested. I'll bail you out. Don't move that truck until someone comes to tow it. And he goes, and sure as shit, by the next day, like it made the news circuit on radio, and they were sold out the next day. Because the best part of it is because on the image of the truck, and like, as big as this room, if not bigger, was a naked Alice Cooper like laying on a bearskin rug, like with something covering his dick, and he was just like, it was like Alice Cooper is in your town or something like that, like lock your daughters up or some shit like that. It was fucking crazy. It was so crazy, especially
dude. I fucking love that.
And he just did that shit, right? And he was like, and they would like, when they had no money, he was like, we skipped out on hotels, and he goes, and eventually I had to go back, and like when we got famous and we got money, he's like, I wrote down all of them, and I went back and I paid every single one of them for the rooms. He's like, but what are you gonna do? We didn't have money, and we had to make the tour. So he pulled a lot of Tim Gettys crazy shit.
I love it.
Scheming.
I love it.
It was pretty fast. You should watch it. It's fascinating.
That sounds great.
He's like a chef now.
I want to get on that. Before you get on this, finishing what I was saying about the Super Nintendo thing.
Yeah.
There's all this footage that I wish that we had of all of us.
Yeah, playing the game for the first time, getting those moments that are in our head that are crystal clear of like, I can't believe I got Royal Rumble on Genesis.
Yeah, so I would love to see a documentary based off of moments like that, like from the footage of people that do have that, because obviously there's people out there that have those things.
Yeah.
But today, watching that, it made me think, and the reason I brought up this topic, actually, is thinking about Rooster Teeth and thinking about them not having the footage because they just didn't make it.
Sure. We
need to start making our documentary. And, like, by making it, I think we need to just start shooting interviews of ourselves about what we're thinking right now. And we should just check in.
Every day I ask, how can I kill Kevin and get away with it?
Yeah. But I honestly think we should start just getting footage just so that we have it, in case we ever want to make it or in case anyone ever wants to, because I feel like that would be fucking awesome. And that's another thing is like, you see these YouTube videos of people that like made messages to themselves every year. And every year I'm always like, oh fuck, I should start doing that now. And it's just like, I started thinking about it. I'm like, fuck man, I remember when I was 16 saying I should do it now.
Those would be awesome to watch.
Yeah. And it's just like, fuck. So I want us to do that. I think that we should somehow set it up in between all the other things we do. But
all right, this is a random thing. I've started to take a screenshot of my Twitter feed since I started Twitter. That's pretty fascinating. You go back and look. So every time I hit 100, then 1,000, and every 1,000 I hit, I take a shot of it.
That's cool.
Just to see like what the tweet is and how it changes.
Those moments are awesome. But I think we should do MTV style real world confessionals.
True story.
Get a bunch of them.
I hate Tim. He ate my peanut butter. That's what they did in Real World, right?
I remember that one, yeah. You're generalizing the Pedro Puck peanut butter scuffle, but no big deal. You do whatever you want. Make fun of big deal on one of like the definitive Real World San Francisco. No big deal. Great topic, Tim. Just hold on 2 fucking seconds.
Go ahead.
Great topic, Tim. It was sponsored by Loot Crate. Would you classify yourself as a geek, gamer, or pop culture nerd?
Yes.
Then Loot Crate is the subscription box for you. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items of gamer and pop culture licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique, one-of-a-kind items, and more. Make sure you head to lootcrate.com/kindafunny and enter the code kindafunny to save $3 on any new subscription. This month, as always, what is it? What's the theme?
Okay, hold on.
You're right. We got a winner. He gets to go to the bathroom because he understands it.
Yeah.
Cyber is it. Cyber Revolution. They have exclusive items from Terminator Genesis, Borderlands 2, and more, including an exclusive t-shirt you won't find anywhere else. So go to lootcrate.com/kindafunny. Use the code kindafunny to save $3 on your new subscription today. It's a circus of value.
Oh, well, Bioshock
Don't
reference.
sue me, Ken Levine. Now you go back.
Ken Levine doesn't need your money.
Can I still give you the money?
Yeah.
That's a wall. Don't take down the wall.
That was you were getting up like Kevin.
Kevin's like one of those kids punching bags. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. I know exactly what you mean.